Hello, we are now going to start our look at security by thinking about some computer-based attacks. Before we begin, let's just look at some key terms. So a vulnerability is a weakness in security that can allow an attack to take place. An attack itself is there to try and cause damage or steal information. The word threat and attack can be used a little interchangeably, but a threat is a potential attack, and we're trying to avoid attacks in the first place by applying different prevention methods which try and avoid it. Or if we can't avoid it, we want to minimize the impact if it does happen. And for GCSE, you've got to know a fair few different attacks and also different prevention methods. I've categorized these into 3 videos: computer-based attacks, network-based attacks, and also people-based attacks. So let's start by looking at malware, which is there to target an individual computer. This is software that tries to damage a computer or steal information. Very similar to my definition for an attack, but the key thing is it's software trying to do this. And malware is short for malicious software. Now, malware is a big category. There are loads of different specific named types of malware. For example, viruses and ransomware are the 2 most well known at the moment. Where a virus works is a virus will infect itself in a host program. When that host program is run, the virus will rapidly replicate and infect other programs in the computer. So while it's causing some damage or stealing information, it's also spreading much like a real virus. Ransomware holds the user to ransom by encrypting files on the computer and then demanding a payment to decrypt them. So I don't need to know those by name, but they are 2 examples of malware. And malware can be delivered to a computer, often via downloads on websites, especially on slightly dodgy websites perhaps, and also a common way to introduce a virus onto a network, for example, are through things like USB sticks, which can easily be removed, very discreetly removed, and very hard to spot being taken into a building, for example. The main prevention method is anti-malware software, also often called antivirus software, just because viruses are the most well-known example of malware. Now, anti-malware software works by containing a database of known malware. The creators of it are deliberately trying to get their computers infected, so they learn about all the new types of malware which have been created every day. When it's installed, the anti-malware software will scan your computer looking for matches with this database. And it might scan periodically, it might also scan every time you download a new file. If it does find some malware, the user will get alerted in some way, and then the anti-malware software will try and remove the malware if it is able to. And that first bullet point really explains why it's so important to keep updating anti-malware software, because we need to make sure that database is up to date, because new malware gets created all of the time. Another useful measure is employing user access levels. Now, this is useful for all kinds of different attacks, but sticking with malware, if malware was trying to delete different files on a computer, then these could potentially limit its spread. So user access levels are where files are marked with who can access it and what they are allowed to do. So who can view it, who is able to edit it, and who is not allowed to access it at all. If you haven't got permission, then you cannot access this file. And if malware is installed on an account which hasn't got much permission, then it won't be able to access the more important files which might be locked off to them. And outside of just malware, this is a really important prevention method just for avoiding sensitive information being seen by people who shouldn't have access to it. So you'll see messages like this if you haven't got the correct user access level. And the word levels comes from the fact that often there are different categories of access. For example, in this image on the right, it says to continue, enter an admin username and password. Often admin is sort of your highest level of access, and then standard users can only access a smaller range of files. To cover one more prevention method and one more attack, well, passwords are a prevention method you can talk about in the exam. They seem so obvious, but they are a method listed. A password itself is a secret string that is required to access an account or file. I've used the word string because it could be a number, like a passcode as well. And they exist to try and prevent unauthorized access to an account. It just makes it a little bit harder to access. And one of the attacks which can target passwords are brute force attacks. A brute force attack is where the attacker tries every single possible combination of a password until they eventually get it correct. And this can be automated very easily using computer programs. And the way we get around this is by ensuring our passwords are as long as possible, because the longer the password, the more combinations there are. And even for a computer, there is a certain length of password where it's just not feasible to try every combination. And so brute force attacks become not worth trying for. And also brute force attacks work assuming you've got an unlimited number of attempts at a password. But of course, we are able to write software which can block access to the account after a number of incorrect tries. I'm sure that's annoyed all of us at one point or another when we have forgotten our own password. But it's fair to try and prevent an attacker just wildly guessing potentially every combination.